Welcome to The Inside Story. I'm Billy Hollowell, and today I'm joined by the Christian Post's Samantha Kamman. How you doing today?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, you're going to break down a really complicated story involving this woman, Adriana Smith, and this is down in Georgia. Adriana Smith was declared brain dead after a medical emergency. Let's start there. Take us through the details of what happened to her, because she was pregnant at the time that this happened.
So, Adriana Smith was 9 weeks pregnant in February when she complained of severe headaches. She sought treatment at Atlanta's Northside Hospital, which released her, said, okay, you're fine, give her some medication. But the next day, the woman's boyfriend heard his girlfriend gasping for air. So she was then taken to Emory University Hospital, which eventually found that she had blood clots on her brain. Unfortunately, she was then declared brain dead. Now, the hospital was unable to remove her from life support, and the family told media that the hospital said that it was because of Georgia's abortion law, but it seems like there's some who say that it's actually a bit more complicated than that. It might have been due to Georgia's law concerning advanced directives, saying that you can't remove life-saving measures from a pregnant woman unless that she specifically said she wanted those withdrawn.
So this is complicated, obviously, and let's sort of go back to Georgia's Life Act here, because you were hinting at that being a factor. Talk about its influence on the decision to keep Adriana on life support. There are some different viewpoints on this. Some have said, no, it didn't require that. Others have said, yes, it did. Help us understand what the law actually says and what that debate has meant as a result of her case in particular.
Yeah, so one side of the issue, we have people like Representative Ayanna Pressley who say that, oh no, the Georgia's Life Act impacted this decision. And even though Georgia's state attorney general said, no, the Life Act wouldn't force a hospital to keep a pregnant woman on life support, people like Pressley argue, and other abortion advocates argue, oh, no, doctors and family members are still confused by it. Monica Snyder over at Secular Pro-Life did a breakdown on this case. Secular Pro-Life is a group of atheists and agnostics who advocate against abortion. She also has a bachelor's and a master's of science, but Snyder said that it's unlikely the state's abortion law had anything to do with this case. One is that Georgia's Life Act, it prohibits administering drugs to deliberately end a pregnancy, but it doesn't say that you can't withdraw life support from a woman. And so she pointed out that Georgia has a law concerning this. It's something that's existed since 2007. It says that a pregnant woman could state in an advance directive that she wants life-saving measures withdrawn, but they can't be removed for her. She says that's more likely what was happening in this case.
So, how did the family deal with this? So you have the government, you have the hospital. The other factor is Adriana Smith's family. How did they sort of navigate this? What was their posture on this?
So Smith's mother has spoken with the media, and she said things like, oh, yes, she wishes it was the family's choice. However, she's also said that the family wouldn't necessarily have chosen to terminate the pregnancy. And obviously, this poor woman, she's feeling a lot of grief. And she says, I shouldn't be having to bury my daughter. My daughter should be burying me. Now, in regards to her daughter's son, baby Chance, she's also said that she sees her grandchild as a part of her daughter. And Chance was delivered via emergency C-section earlier this month. He's currently in the NICU, and his grandmother says that he's fighting to survive, but it's expected that he'll be okay.
So you said she was 9 weeks pregnant. Is that accurate when this happened?
9 weeks pregnant when she had medical complications, and then it was earlier this month. She was kept on life support since February, and then the doctors did an emergency C-section earlier this month.
Okay, so she was, she has been on life support for a long time throughout this pregnancy. And you said, baby Chance, that he's likely to survive this. What are the possible long-term health outcomes for him? Do we have any idea of what that might look like?
Last report that I saw, he was in NICU. This has also been another debate. There are some people, abortion advocates, who are now talking about his quality of life, saying it probably would have been better to just let him die. That raises other ethical questions. But something else that Secular Pro-Life has pointed out, that there's a study published in the National Library of Medicine that found, like, in 35 cases of maternal brain death, 77% of babies were born alive, and 85% of those born alive had normal outcomes by 20 months after birth. Now, circumstances in this particular case are a little bit different because women in that study, on average, were maybe a little bit closer to 20 weeks gestation, were on life support for about 7 weeks. Smith had been 9 weeks pregnant, and she was kept on life support for 12 weeks. But still, as Monica Snyder pointed out, she hasn't really seen a lot of abortion advocates asking, well, what would Smith have wanted in this case? As many mothers, regardless of where you stand in the abortion debate, value their unborn children. And it's also, this is a case where, unfortunately, the mother could not be saved, but continuing the pregnancy doesn't seem like it would have impacted her health. So why is there so much outrage that there were still efforts to save this child's life?
Well, that's the interesting thing about this case is that it raises the reality, and it's not a question, it's a reality that you have two separate lives here,
Yeah.
right? And that one of them, of course, is inside of the other, but these are two distinct lives, and this is why this is so complicated, and it's sparking so many emotions. As far as we know, as far as Adriana Smith goes, is she still on life support? Where do things stand with her?
I believe she was removed from life support, last I heard, and she has passed away. But the family still has baby Chance. And she also had another child who's around 7 years old. And the grandmother has said that she's, going to have to explain to the child what's happening with his mother because that child's under the impression that his mom was just sleeping. And she's also prepared to tell him about, what's happening with your brother right now.
So, what are the broader ethical or societal debates? I mean, we've hinted at them, but this case has really sparked a number of questions and concerns, both legal, ethical, theological, regarding life support, unborn children, and how this issue should be handled.
Mm, there's definitely a lot of questions about life, how we value it. And we also should address this point. Many pro life advocates would agree, if life saving measures were necessary to, say, prevent Smith from dying, like the pregnancy presented a risk to her health, that's a different issue. You have the doctrine of double effect, where, okay, maybe trying to save the mother would indirectly uh, kill the unborn child. But in this particular case, it seems there was no chance to save her life. She was declared brain dead. And yes, her life is still valuable, but the question many pro-lifers are asking is, why let Chance die too? And shouldn't we be advocating for protecting a mother's child when she's in a position where maybe she can't defend him herself? And yes, some people are arguing, oh, Chance will just have a miserable life. He'll have all these health issues. He'll be disabled. But someone who has health issues, someone who's disabled, are they less valuable, not worth saving? Aren't they human beings like the rest of us who deserve equal protection from violence and should have a chance?
Yeah, I mean, this is this is the thing, right? I think one of the things that might upset people and frustrate people on the pro-choice side, right? And that's not to say there aren't complexities here, is that this underscores this case the fact that there are two separate lives, right? It actually points that out, shows it, and makes it very apparent that even though this woman tragically was dealing with this medical crisis, that this baby could potentially survive and even thrive and live. That is, it opens up a lot of, I think, blatant in your face reality as to how complicated and complex, this issue is, when a lot of people have tried to use language to diminish that life. Clearly, what some would call a clump of cells at 9 weeks has grown into a baby. And that presents a lot of, I think, of issues in this case. Now, obviously, going back to the law, the way it stands and the way that it was being interpreted, just, I know we talked about this at the top. I want to revisit it. How was the hospital interpreting Georgia's Life Act, just so we understand why the hospital made the decisions that they did in this case?
So the hospital doesn't seem like they've commented on Smith's case directly. They've provided statements to the media just saying that, oh, they use consensus from clinical experts, medical literature, legal guidance in order to support their providers, make individualized treatment recommendations, and they just say we act in compliance with Georgia's abortion laws and all other applicable laws, and that their top priority is the safety and well-being of their patients. So it's kind of just a very broad statement. It just sounds like they're covering all their bases there, but they haven't come out and said, from what I've seen, that, oh, it was Georgia's abortion law. That was why we couldn't take her off life support.
Yeah, and it's gosh, So complicated. But the family had said, they wished it was their choice. So obviously the family didn't seem to have full control in this case when it came to what they would have wanted to do based on what we've seen in media.
Yeah, the family said that, oh, even if they wouldn't have necessarily chosen to terminate the pregnancy, they wish it was their choice. Now, the family said that the hospital told them that it was due to Georgia's abortion law. But again, you also have this law that's existed in Georgia since 2007 that says that they couldn't withdraw care. So it's hard to say exactly what happened there. And obviously, the hospital can't provide information about a patient because of privacy issues.
So do you think that this case could lead to changes or new conversations when it comes to Georgia's laws concerning life support and fetal rights?
It's difficult to say. I know Representative Ayanna Pressley, she's the co-chair of the Reproductive Freedom Caucus. They announced that they have a resolution. They're asking the government to repeal state laws against abortion because they say, oh, it was because of Georgia's cruel abortion ban that Smith's family went through this. It's hard to say what exactly will happen. I know a lot of politicians are talking about this case, media is talking about it, but it's hard to say what the long-term consequences of it will be.
Well, we will continue to monitor this story and this case and baby chance and the broader issues. Samantha, I appreciate you taking the time today.
Thank you so much.
Everyone else, make sure you head on over to the Christian Post to read all the news you need to read, and we'll be back next week with another episode of the show.